Dear guests, we are continue. Please take a seat. Thank you.
Так я и понял.
Да.
Как правильно?
Правильно, варе.
Варе? Как коротко, да?
Да.
Я тут все время думал, что может быть вар. Ну да. Пытался выучить когда-то эстонский, но...
Я.
Ну, it's not mine, it's bank's actually. I took it from the bank. So.
А я еще даже не видела ее.
Так никто же не видел.
Mr. Ļudas Zdanavičius, к столу. Thank you.
Там впереди экземпляры раздают просто, или можно даже взять, они там в стопке лежат.
Нет, у меня ничего нет.
Пожалуйста.
Вот, пожалуйста.
Спасибо.
Я вам дам.
А уже предложили, Нет. Первое предложение было здесь.
А є з чим signature отвать?
Это не мое.
Спасибо.
Модератор подарил.
Ой, давайте тоже подписываться.
Vajadzētu sākt ar Viktoriju. Tas būtu, man liekas, ka pilnīgi dabiski.
Man starp citu ir tāpat
Es
likās.
domāju, ka pilnīgi dabiski vajag sākt ar Viktoriju, jo nav loģiski, ka priekš ir kaut kā Igauns.
Можно начать с вас? Это будет мне тоже кажется. По темам тоже немножко
По всем
кажется,
параметрам,
лучше. Да.
Слушайте,
Я вообще был изначально в плане последнем, почему-то меня вперед сунул.
А я не знаю, где это.
я прочитал
Я...
свои выводы, да, и понял, что они какие-то пророссийские очень.
Tas ir manējais, es tev visu noliku malā. Šī ir viss manējais. Ну и тогда второй. Вы будете...
Как скажете,
Да. Мы начинаем уже.
Виктория первая, так что...
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, could you have your seats, please? We are beginning our second panel, today's panel, which is devoted to the political implications of economic relations between Russia, Belarus, and Baltic states. And today we have three guests, three speakers, three authors of the chapters in this new book. We will change a little bit the order of the presentations somehow. At the last moment, it always seems more logical to change something, and best thoughts come the last minute. So we will start with Viktorija Panova, who is associate professor at the Department of International Relations and Foreign Policy at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. Then we'll give floor to the Raivo Vare, a former Minister of Transport and Communications of the Estonian Republic, also with large experience in the businesses himself and as a consultant and as a businessman. And last but not least, we'll give floor to Liudas Zdenavičius. He's a lecturer at the Jonas Žemaitis Military Academy of Lithuania. Before I give a floor to our speakers, I'd like to make some. I was asked to make some introductory remarks on this panel. From the previous panel, in fact, I catched a really good phrase from Carlis Bukovskis, who said that, well, yeah, good political relations may not, in fact, have any impact on economic relations between the countries, but bad relations, political relations between the countries definitely are influencing the economic side of the interaction. And this panel is mostly about that, about how economic and political spheres interact with each other, and well, what challenges and opportunities can we get out of it? When speaking about political implications, we of course we have in fact two sides. One side is opportunities, which were covered in the first panel by the Latvian side, broadly, but still there were a lot of facts on the perspectives of economic cooperation and in various larger and smaller issues. The other side are challenges, risks, some may say even threats, and so on, which arise from the political environment, from the political actors, from different issues, specific issues for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia in relation to Russia or Belarus. We in a public discussion here in Latvia, at least, we have found that there are we have seen that there are issues raised regarding the too much influence of political influence of Russia, which is raised by Russia's economic presence, which is sometimes again regarded as a threat. There are issues of transparency of businesses and so on and so on. Regarding this, taking into account that the Latvian part was mostly covered, here we have now authors and presenters of the other parts, except Belarus, as it was mentioned already before, which we really lack. But nonetheless, I think that we will have a fruitful discussion on the political implications on the political side, also of the economic relations between our countries. And so I give floor to Ms. Panova. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to pick up on what Carlos was speaking about, about this. He had in his presentation this argument that this smallness of Latvia or other Baltic states, it actually leads to some not good political choices or inferiority, as he put it. But I can tell you in terms of, I do prefer the smallness, because I've just been a couple of days ago on the other presentation of the books, and it was on, let's say, more scary topic of anti-ballistic missile, and it was in Russia and all Russians, and there were not a single smile, not a single joke. So I prefer smallness with jokes and with their relaxation here, and more human approach rather than too serious big states approach. So I also did just prefer old school. I don't know how we term academic minutes. We also, academic have double standards, I see. For students, we have a small amount of minutes. Here we have a big amount, but I will try to keep it short because I realize if you gave me the ladies first option, then will have not to abuse this idea. So first, I should say that yes, we had already from the Latvian perspective a very thorough analysis of and quite a detailed of how Russia and Baltic countries are interacting in terms of specifics. So I'm also given some statistics, and as Andres said, where I don't see him, he left. Oh, yes. Statistics was very much different. Although with your statistics, I found more problems in terms of finding how it actually corresponds within their own institutions, not how it corresponds with the Russian one. But so obviously, I did base more on Rosstat and other institutions that are Russian. So talking about how I put my paper, I first described their economic situation in Russia, so what challenges it has now, what are their prospects for its development, and from here actually coming to some propositions on why and how Baltic states can be judged from this perspective and how important they are for Russia. And a lot has been said previously on asymmetry of those relations. But what I've been finding, actually, is that yes, asymmetry is there, it is present, but it's a double-layer asymmetry. We have one layer which is small state versus big state, and that's where some of their challenges, some of their fears come from in terms of Baltic states' business or governments being scared or not happy with the Russian overwhelming Russian presence, which is not only Russian but via offshore zones of Cyprus, Switzerland, etc. But on the other hand, Russia can also be scared because what are the Baltic states now? They are not separate states. They're part of the EU, they're part of NATO. And this brings in another aspect of asymmetry when Russia is actually seeing itself facing their bigger entities that it has to somehow either cooperate or coordinate or at some point actually stand against if it sees that interests are not the same. So that's why I see that in some policy options when Russia is being too rigid in terms of responding to it's been too rigid in terms of responding to the Baltic states. It was also part of this problem that Russia did not want to be seen as a weak state as opposed to their bigger EU or NATO entities, which Baltic states make really big part, formal part of. Another thing is this, of course, but what state is the asymmetry of capabilities? Yes, we are talking about Baltic direction as important for some of the businesses. And yes, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are situated in strategically important region, and they are neighboring Russia, and there are a number of issues Russia would always be wanting to deal with, and why they are important for those reasons. But if we talk economic-wise, from the point of view of the whole state, not particular businesses, Baltic direction is less visible or less important if we judge it, even if bilateral ties, than, for example, Russian-German relations within the EU, or if we talk altogether, then compare Russian-EU or Russian relations with the new emerging economies of their BRICS club, for example, which it sees vital as growing, because if we look that direction, Russian trade with them actually grew by almost 1,000%. And here we remain very important partners for each other, I mean EU and Russia, but there hasn't been a significant increase in absolute terms. So it stagnates, it remains the same, more or less. With Baltic states, I see there are several spheres, several areas that are very important for both of our states, and that is energy and transport and transit. Those are the two areas I've been looking at particularly. And I wouldn't be given all the statistics because I realize that they should be an intrigue, and all of you would have to rather read and see what are the real figures, or what are the figures that lead us to the assumptions. So instead of that, I would rather give my major conclusions, apart from this double layer asymmetry that I've already told you about. Then the other one is that today we have those memory issues or historic issues. They still remain with some countries like Estonia, for example, to a bigger extent than with Lithuania, who had most balanced relations from the very start with Russia, or even with Latvia, who started catching up in terms of bilateral relations. But I think, I seriously think that they are fading away, and even though there's still not many political steps, like bilateral commission, for example, intergovernmental commission.
Hasn't met for the decade already.
No, it's not established, and it's a step from the Russians. The Russian officials say, okay, it has to be a reciprocal thing. We would not establish it unless there's a package deal. So this is there, but I seriously think this is fading away, and that's why I would not term Russian presence or Russian business presence in the Baltic states as a challenge. Shadow business, yes, it's a challenge, but for both nations. But the bigger interaction, the bigger interdependence we have in trade and economic areas, the faster it will bring to political thaw on all levels. So I believe this is vital, and that's economy comes first, and EU is the brightest example, most vivid example, when the former foes actually came and started very much cooperating on their first economic spheres, like coal, steel, and then etc. And then came up to like bigger integration in the political union and what we see of the EU now. Another conclusion is that the Baltic states are currently presented as London for poorer Russian millionaires, as Forbes jokingly put it. And I think it's actually in line with what I've said before, actually presents more of opportunities rather than challenges to this end. The point is to actually distinguish between their shadow business and outflow of capital and national interests as they are, as opposed to their Kremlin business elite interests, and then it will be more transparent in this case. Another conclusion is that the Baltic states are trying to present, trying to see yourself as a bridge sometimes. You're trying to put this option forward. I think this can be, on the one hand, an option, but on the other hand, I don't think this would be taken by the other partner. It's the same situation when we're trying to present ourselves as a bridge between the G7 and the BRICS within the G20. Nobody takes this role for us because it gives us additional trumps. The same for here. It's not just Russia that would not give you this role, probably would be happy to cooperate more, but I'm quite sure your Polish or German partners would not be willing to allow this role for you to take up. And probably two more things I want to single out is that Russia remains, notwithstanding any political situation, a very profitable market, which is vital for your economies, and I think this should be dealt from here. Some of the Western European markets, like medical, like pharmaceutical market, it's still closed so no newcomers. So Russian market is an opportunity, and there should be more things explored this way. And what helps to that, as I found, is that common traditions and similar business ethics. Yes, Russian oligarchs can be more closed, more corrupt in some cases, but there is this common history which brings problems but also brings opportunities from the point of view of understanding each other better, and I think we should use it. I think I read it somewhere, but then it came more to my mind, and I interpreted it in my way. So like Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians being too German for Russians, but too Russian for Germans. And I think this is the case where we should be, being too Russian for Germans should be used in our bilateral relations. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what I catch some interesting thoughts from here, and then from this big picture. And really, thank you very much for your contribution to the book and also for this presentation. One thing that I got was that, well, in fact, economically, Baltics is less important than other directions for Russia. However, well, economic issues still are present at any political dialogue, well, between the Baltics and also the EU. Therefore, there was the point again about that Russia doesn't want to be to feel itself weak against versus the EU and NATO, and therefore, from the perspective of Russia, Baltics is in fact a part of EU and NATO. Therefore, politically, they are also important because of that. With giving the floor to Raivo, Vare, I wanted also to kind of rhetorically ask: does Estonia feel important for Russia politically and economically?
Well, I hope I will answer the question at the end of my short presentation. First, I would like to thank the Latvian colleagues who are behind the book as such for inviting also non-academicians like me to be part of this authors collective. Secondly, the credit should be given to my co-author, Karmo Tür. Actually, he should sit here and present the chapter. I was just forced to be instead of him here, so I beg your pardon for being not so academical. I think that a lot of things are very similar for all three Baltic states in relations with Latvia, but with Russia, but also certain differences can be spotted. Unfortunately, the statistics which has been presented in this book is already a bit outdated because the cycle of preparations has been so long that actually the things written in mid 2011 are not very much relevant in sense of direct statistics right now, because a lot of changes has also taken place and developments gradually has changed statistics as well. But anyway, at least trends are still there and nothing has changed very much in that respect. During this work, at least at Estonian part, I was surprised actually understanding or getting that the analysis of economic relations with Russia is not a priority in Estonia, at least. Nobody cares very much. Very few works done, very few analyses done, and majority attention is paid to the political relationship, to the security relationship, and all kind of, let's say, political stuff, but not the economical one. I don't know why, but it's a plain fact. And it has an impact on our research as well. And one thing which I would also mention is that Belarus is somehow even more marginal in importance from the economical relationship perspective than it is for Latvia or Lithuania, definitely not. But for Estonia, it's very marginal, apparently, because of many reasons, and therefore, further on, I wouldn't touch very much Belarus at all. A few words about methodology. The methodology was based on two principles. First, we had an analysis of available data, and secondly, we had extensive and in-depth interviews with 32 actors from different levels in the country, starting from the governmental level and ending with the companies level and academicians. And actually combining these two approaches, we have made our conclusions and analysis and conclusions. One thing which is also maybe worth to be mentioned, that we first part of our research was dedicated to the history of the relationship, and we identified several periods within this dynamics of the bilateral relationship, starting from 1992. Actually, I wouldn't elaborate very much about that, but certainly there was a certain, how to say, certain focal points where during this period which have made dramatic changes in the economical relationships. And first it was Russian crisis, Russian default, for obvious reasons, and secondly it was Bronze Soldier, 2007. Then we had a analysis of state actors and non-state actors, how they act in this relationship, economical relationship in Russian direction. And then we had a political background, which is behind the scenery of economical relationship, and then some conclusions. So one thing is for sure that if we look at the dynamics, we can state that actually, and this is a graph which I would love to show, but unfortunately I can't. It's the graph which shows the Russian share in foreign trade of Estonia, dynamics starting from 1991. And we have to admit that actually the share has dramatically dropped from those times and has stabilized on certain levels starting from end of 2000s, more or less. But at the same time, the absolute volumes have grown substantially. So it's one of the conclusions which probably applies to all other relationships, including our neighbor's relationship with Russia as well, and also with Belarus. Share small, but volumes bigger. If we talk about the decline was mainly due to the total restructuring of the economies of respective countries, and this is something which basically was, how to say, like by nature law, I would say, a natural thing. Only sector which has actually grown in bilateral relationship of our two countries was transit trade related sector, and for obvious reasons. Of course, temporary tensions have had an impact. Bad relations, political relations have indeed impact on economical relations, and it is visible from the statistics as well. And even being a big, let's say, relatively big partner nowadays for Estonia economically, Russia is a third trading partner for Estonia and also fourth investment partner. Still the share of Russia is much lower than even neighboring countries, Scandinavian countries, but also if you compare Russian share, for example, with the share of EU countries or Eurozone countries. And last but not least, last years have shown dramatic growth of Russian grassroots interest towards Estonia. Whatever reasons on the companies level, but definitely it's about personal level, and we have tremendously successful tourism business flourishing right now from Russia. On the investment side, I would mention one thing which is very important also to grasp and which was tackled during the previous session. There is no clear statistics about investments originated from Russia. And there cannot be even I would argue. Because if you look at the FDI statistics of Russia itself, you can find out that by some estimations up to 2/3 of FDI of Russia itself is round-tripping. So basically it's Russian money but coming from other jurisdictions. Cyprus is enormously powerhouse investment to Russia, also from Russia, for obvious, again, technical reasons included. But for example, in Estonia, Cyprus is also competing with Russia itself as a major investment, originating country. Probably we can guess that at least part of this Cyprus money is actually not the Cyprus money and EU money, but somebody else's. And this is something which we can't help actually, because the statistical technology doesn't provide means to measure such things at all. So it's all about expert evaluations. Belarusian investments, by the way, are very small, and Estonian investments in Belarus are also very marginal. If you look at the governmental level, we split the governmental level into two levels: the central government level and government ministries and agencies, state agencies, and then the local government level. To cut it short, on governmental level, we have rather restricted cooperation right now. It was already mentioned about Meshprav Commission, which doesn't work. There was one once. I had the privilege to be vice chairman on the Estonian side for drafting of economical cooperation agreements, which have been prepared in textual form but hasn't been moved further on because of the very same reason which actually Victoria mentioned. It's about the package deal ideology on Russian side, not the step-by-step approach which actually has been adopted very much by Baltics, all Baltic countries in my mind. So therefore, it's very much halted, although that we have very good examples of very good cooperation of border guards, of tax, and especially the customs departments. Recently, for example, the Green Corridor finally has been introduced on the border crossing from Estonia to Russia, which actually has already shown good results. And therefore, we can say that, of course, agricultural, for example, sector has good relationship. Our Minister of Economics and Communications has kind of relationship, but not in full spectrum of their responsibilities, because in Russian case they have numerous counterparts. In our case, it's one ministry. So also certain things are not very much in favor of Russian side to proceed with, and for example, related to the border crossing issues. Again, not the customs issues, but border crossing physical infrastructure issues, for example. So these things have been, on hold for a while, and probably not very much will change in immediate future. On local level, on local government level, actually there is a big interest on both sides, by the way, but there is a problem, this asymmetry problem also. In Estonia, local governments are, let's say, too small for Russian counterparts, and in Russia, on Russian side, these oblasti, for example, they want to deal with the government of Estonia because of this matching size, but it doesn't match with other rules of the game. I would be polite about that. So therefore, it doesn't work very well, and it's unfortunate that it's going so. On non-state level, I would say that it's going much better. And maybe the main sectors which are right now the focal sectors for collaboration are transit logistics, obviously, the energy industry, manufacturing industry, and tourism. I would skip a lot of things. You can read it from the book. But actually, this transit logistics sector is the best example also of not only collaboration and cooperation, but also restrictive approach. It's not a big secret that Russia has imposed through the non-administrative ways or means, have imposed a limit on border crossing of trains towards Estonia. And it has been kept since the bronze soldier, still on this very same level. That's it. So it is about twice lower level than it used to be, and which is 3 times lower level than the technical capacity of railways. So this is a perfect example, and it still goes. Conclusion is that all these difficulties and uncertainties and fluctuations in bilateral relationship has very much pushed also Estonian companies, the actors on the ground root level, also out of the Russian market to other markets. And if we put it at the end as conclusions, I think that we should identify 3 ways by which Russia has try to influence what is going on for political reasons, but via economical means, in a sense, what is going on in Estonia. I suspect that it is very much relevant to other Baltic countries also. We have identified as big 3 ways. First, it's through big companies, which has an incentive for market purposes. Then it's through dependence on energy. And third, it's through oligarchic interest groups. And in all of those things, Russia has failed for different reasons in Estonian case. And if we look at the political influence, we can, through economic means, we can draw the conclusion that Russia's influence, I'm now quoting to our own text, Russia's influence on Estonia is minimal because from the very beginning it employed the wrong instruments and proceeded from false assumptions. And then during the historical development there was no very clear policy from the Russian side. And when this policy, the centralized foreign policy, emerged with all the aspirations of influencing Baltic states through the economic means, it was already too late. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was just in time. I've already written half a minute, but yeah,
I'm
thank you.
still student. I'm
Yeah.
not academician.
We are managing the time. This panel. That's good. One thing that I catched was that statistics really proved kind of hypothesis that was made before, that bad relations and economic interactions will have some impact on each other. On the other hand, also, well, in case of Estonia, statistics indicate how the political relations go. The drop in the that was after the of economic interaction after the bronze soldier has not gone up. So this means the relations. You can see the relations also have not changed a lot.
Actually, we are back on pre-bronze soldier level more or less right now, but it has taken 5 years. But at the same time, the Russian default was pure economical reason, no political background, and still it had a tremendous impact on our bilateral relations of all 3 Baltic states with Russia.
Of course.
Depends.
Well. We have seen the various sides of today already, the relations between the political and economical interaction and the impact of it. In this case, it would be really interesting to hear what the good guy on the block, I think in this case Lithuanians, have to say about this. And also, well, the other interesting thing that I would like to hear really, and then I think audience would also like to hear from perspective of Lithuania is something more regarding Belarus, because well, it's not a secret Lithuanians are more active than Estonians and Latvians in building some relations and getting more involved with Belarus. So I give floor to Liudas Zdanavičius, and the floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon.
We had a huge challenge preparing this article because there is so much things which we could write about both relations with both countries, and Russia and Belarus in case of Lithuania. In fact, I think we have much more material than in case of Latvia, or particularly in case of Estonia. But still, I will try to make you a short overview of what's going on. And it will be, I don't know, very fragmented, of course, but
And short.
I'll try to speak about everything. And short, yes. Yeah. So, I would like to begin once again about historical. We haven't written here about that, but in Lithuania was the same situation. The fault in 1998 forced Lithuania to diversify its foreign trade. And now Russia is important trade partner, but not so important anymore as it was before 1998. You know, when we look at Lithuanian foreign trade statistics, usually Russia is first or second export partner, but it's just from the first side, because in fact 80% or in the last half a year, even I think 84% of Lithuanian foreign export to Russia is in fact re-export. So when the total export of Lithuania to Russia is in 2011 was 2,700,000,000 euros. Export of Lithuanian goods was only something like 700s. And of course, Lithuania is that means that Lithuania is super important for transit purposes for importing some goods in Russia, both through the road carriage and ports and so on. I will not speak about structure because everything is here. Import. Lithuania is heavily dependent on the import from Russia. Import from Russia constitutes at most something between 1/4 and 1/3 of total Lithuanian GDP. Not maybe yes, 1/4 of GDP and 1/3 of total import. And of course, the biggest share of this import is energy resources. You know, Lithuania has one of the highest level of dependency on the foreign supply of energy resources in the total European Union. Before, for a closure of Ignalina nuclear plant, this dependence was around 50%. And now we get up to 80% of our total energy consumption from Russia. So 80% of import is from Russia is 72% import from Russia is oil, crude oil for Mažeikiai refinery. No, of course, part is later exported as the products, but anyway, 13% is natural gas, and of course, electricity is very important, and it's now electricity from Russia. It's corresponds up to 70% of total Lithuanian consumption of electricity. Speaking about Belarus, Belarus is also important for Lithuanian foreign trade. From the first side, it seems that we have a big surplus in the trade with Belarus. But in fact, we have negative trade balance, in my opinion, because in case of Belarus, situation is even more indicative. Up to 90% of export, in fact, is re-export. For example, you can see huge rise of the export to Belarus in 2011 because of this new custom tariff, custom union, and so on. Last chance to import some second-hand car from Europe for cheap to Belarus. Yes. Okay, foreign direct investment. You know, in case in Lithuania, of course, we have this same problem of identification because we have some investments from Netherlands and so on. But in fact, Cyprus, British Virgin Islands, and other traditional Russian hideouts are not particularly big investors in Lithuania. I think maybe Netherlands is something interesting. But there are some exceptions. Lukoil came to Lithuania from Luxembourg. It's well known. And Yukos in 2002, I think, when it came through Netherlands. So, and it was mentioned this case of Switzerland. You know, now we have following dynamics of Russian foreign direct investment in Lithuania. You know, from year 2000, it increased 30 times. But you know, the biggest increase was in 2002-2004. Two most important cases here are privatization of Lietuvos Dujos, Lithuanian gas company, and Lifosa, very big fertilizers producer in Lithuania. And of course, at that time it was Yukos. Later we have Sorosa. But you know, last year we have sharp decrease of Russian investment, because from I think up to 900 millions euros to 500, to the level of 2005, because Sorosa bankruptcy. It was very important here. What differs Lithuania from Latvia and Estonia? We are very serious investor in both in Russia and Belarus. For example, Lithuanian fish producer, fish products producer Vičiūnai has both factories in Belarus and in Kaliningrad Oblast. There is new very big wood processing plant in the western Belarus. I think 1,200 jobs were created. Senukai, very big retail chain in Lithuania, is expanding rapidly in Belarus. And we have much more similar examples, particularly in the Kaliningrad Oblast too. And another question that Lithuanian investors are sometimes hiding themselves too. We don't know exactly. I think the scale of operation is even bigger, but they are not declaring. Transit. We have two separate tendencies. When we speak about Russia, now the share of Russia in the Klaipėda port is much lower than it was in 2000 because of the tariffs. Vice versa, share of Belarus increased 1.5 times, and now it's 1/3 of the cargo turnover in Klaipėda. Plus Lithuanian road carriers have very strong positions in Russia, like up to 15% of the share in the market. Now let's go to more interesting part. First, I would like to speak about political relations, because the same as in the other countries in our region, Lithuanian government, I should check how much time it's left. 5 minutes. It's good. Lithuanian government is looking all the time for the golden balance. You know, Eastern Partnership, human rights, I don't know, some other issues, versus economic interests of exporting, transit, and other businessmen. And when we speak about political relations, on the highest level with Russia, practically those relations are frozen. We had one visit of Prime Minister in 2010, but in fact it's frozen. On the ministerial level and in this commission, everything is not so bad, and I think it's even could describe as quite optimistic. For example, not so long ago we had agreement on the building of cooperative building of new bridge through Nemunas, a new border post on the border of Kaliningrad Oblast. So, or a new agreement on certification of goods. I will not speak about regional because everything here is in the book. It is important to speak about separate sectors. Of course, we have two main trends. Russian investments in the manufacturing sector, in the exporting sector, are a huge success in the case of Lithuania, because they came to the almost bankrupt or the companies in the difficult financial situation, and now they are very successful. where raw materials from Russia, investments, were big sellers on the foreign markets. As I mentioned, Lifosa, Mečio Nemunas, and some Gargždų Mida and some other projects. When we speak about energy sector, where is monopolization, non-transparency, there is much different situation. Of course, first question is oil sector. You all know this long story with Mažeikių Nafta, privatization, and you know, for example, we had a situation when the American investor silently sold its shares to the Yukos, but of course Yukos was a very successful story, which ended, as we know, quite rapidly. And what is most important, this Druzhba affair. Of course, most of you know this sad story for Lithuania.
You don't want to touch upon Orlen and Polish relations, right?
Yeah, it's another question, Orlen, yes, but you know that Lukoil offered the lowest price, second bigger was Kazmunai and third one was offered, the best one was offered by Orlen. But Druzhba was cut at the same moment. And Lithuanian government and the Orlen is offering to repair this Druzhba very often. But there is no answer from Russia on this offer. So, Gazprom and Lithuanian government. I think you know that it is very long, dramatic story now in Lithuania. One of the number one, I don't know, question all the time. You know that Lithuania decided to implement the harshest scenario of EU third energy package. But you must understand that Gazprom is acting in Lithuania quite bravely and, how to say, enforcingly. We are paying one of the highest prices in the Europe. What is the interesting? We are paying now the higher price than Ukraine, but now for Ukraine it pays off to buy the gas from the Germany. So it means that we are paying the higher price than Germany. We even paid, I don't know how about now, because this sector is not so transparent, but anyway, higher price than Latvia and Estonia, because we are implementing this third energy package. Latvia and Estonia is not implementing. And Gazprom openly stated that, but you are guilty for that, so in principle, it's your guilt. And of course, the biggest mistake in the Gazprom eyes that Lithuania is building this LNG terminal. So this conflict is very open, very harsh, in fact. We have arbitrages in the Stockholm, we have, I don't know, very harsh discussion, and politicians are involved, heavy lobbying from the Gazprom. So this story is long. Another important characteristic of Lithuania, intermediaries. In gas sector, we still have Dujotekana, which controls 15% of the market, and was very visible some time ago, yes, in Lithuanian politics. And in electricity sector, which is even more important now, we have Interrao Lietuva, which controls up to 70% of Lithuanian market. They have superb offer because they sell electricity for 4 cents, euro cents, or up to 5, it depends, when our power plant can produce from the Russian gas once again. So from the wolf to the beer, yes. And okay, I was shown 1.5 minutes, but I need to speak 3 minutes. So I'm sorry. So let's go to the asymmetry of the relations. We must understand that in case of Lithuania, it's very clearly seen that Russia and even Belarus have a lot of tools to influence Lithuanian, I don't know, decision making, at least theoretically, to the business sector, because in fact our business is dependent on those markets, but not so dependent maybe as we think, as you can see from this. On the other hand, our transit sector is vulnerable. In the case of Belarus, we depend on the transit through the Belarus, both of goods and electricity from Russia and Ukraine, and some other, of course, investments, our future of our investments, conditions for them. But on the other hand, Belarus is also dependent on our investments. So here we have some, I don't know. And you can ask, have Russia, for example, used that asymmetry. Yes, we have some sad stories, Druzhba, and in 2009 it was very indicative, because we have, on the one hand, very big limitations for our road careers, and next day it was limitations on our milk exporters were imposed. But later it was negotiated and were abolished, but anyway our business lost, I think, up to 100 million euros, if I'm not wrong now, because I don't have the numbers here. And the last, I think, question is transportation sector, which is, I think, it's interesting for both of you. You know, Russian capital is very interested to get control of Lithuanian transit sector. Even Lithuanian parliament in 2006 introduced the law that in the transit sector could operate only a state-owned company. But anyway, as I mentioned, as the partner, still hugely important for our ports. Thank you.
Thank you. You really managed to do that in 3
Yeah.
minutes.
I was in a hurry, as you have seen.
Now I understand why you Lithuanians are the good guys on the block. Just like Russia, you like to invest and hide, and then also you both like a good fight. That means that you respect each other, I think. I would like to thank all the panelists here, and also you for patience, the audience. I think we have a lot of food for thought and a really good ground for discussions, because a lot of interesting issues are raised. So now I'm opening the floor to the questions and discussion. Yeah.
I will start probably because I have a microphone. That's my privilege.
That's
Then
the
I
power.
will give. No, yeah, some really. Thank you for all of speakers. It was good to have some other perspective, not just to listen our colleagues from Latvia. It's good to have some people from abroad. So thank you for coming. And I'd like to just comment two things what Victoria said. In one, I will agree with you, and in other, disagree in some degree. But you said about those illusions about bridges between like West and Russia, and I agree with you totally. We had that kind of sentiment in 1990s. Probably nowadays, Latvians are more realistic and we understand mentality. There is not just political reasons from both sides, like from West and from Russia, and economical reasons, but also some kind of mentality. I believe that Russians always want to speak with those who are in charge. Who is responsible is the first question. And therefore, it's just okay, we understand it. And Russia even is not looking to the Brussels, but to the like Berlin, Paris, and London. And so, but it's okay, we understand it. Second is about this culture and common history, and I agree in like for part of that, but in our book, in conclusion, there is a interesting notion like character of investments. And when we look to the Transparency International, there is an interesting index, they called it Bribe Payer Index. And Russia and China is on the top, unfortunately, which means that when Russian businessmen are operating abroad, they are most keen to give bribes. And this is also probably one of the risks here in Latvia when Russian businessmen come. But nevertheless, I'm saying yes, we have to cooperate, and it can influence also political relations. So thank you.
I have a question, and I would like you to ask, give a short answer. Do you expect that political relations of Baltic states and Russia might somehow change with Russia's entry in the World Trade Organization? Thanks.
We'll take one more question and then answer. Is there? Yes, there is.
My question I would like to address specifically to Estonian representative, Mr. Vare. Do you think after the events with bronze soldier in Estonia, anything has been changed with Russian influence in the port of Tallinn after the takeover of Eurodec terminal by Mercury Energy Trading, which is known to be owned by two Ukrainian ex-musicians. And I would like you to comment this history of switching the owners in Eurodec oil terminal. Thank you.
Okay, then I think we can start with the last question already.
You think so? No.
Yeah,
okay.
I
It's
think
particularity. Actually, their business is not going as well as they should have gone, because it was one of the most developed technologically and just space-wise developed terminals in the port. And the reason why they acquired at all this interest was because the previous owners ran into trouble because they lost it, because of bronze soldier very much already before even they lost streams. And they had extensive loan burden and they couldn't match it, and therefore they sold it to whomever, musicians or not. Secondly, at the moment, the business has started actually to perform better. And at the moment, the very same terminal, which is now called Vesta, has put forward a request for detailed planning for building new storage capacity in the port, which means only one thing: they need it. The problem is that it's not volume-wise anymore. The entire oil business has changed the nature, and this broader issue, and not applying only to Estonia, but in Estonia it's very visible because of Ust-Luga impact already. The business has changed the nature, and the throughput business, which I used to be in also for a while, is gone, or not gone entirely, but is declining, and substantial declining, and will decline by definition. Again, it's nature law, a long story, I can explain it later why. But the storage-related business is actually growing one. And this is exactly why the capacity for storage additional is needed, because throughput is using the same capacity several times, but with storage business you need more and more capacity and keep for a longer time the very same cargo. But anyway, it's not disappearing, so don't make jokes out of it. It's still going well relatively, but the profitability of the business has dropped substantially, and also the nature, the model itself has changed. And those who adapt themselves to this are at large better doing. And I would be a bit unpolite, but I would say that I am not sure that our southern neighbors have grasped it yet, that the nature of the oil-related business in Russia has dramatically changed. I would say right away a couple of words about the WTO, because we had it in our report also from the Estonian perspective, and we have expressed the opinion that actually it doesn't change extremely much. Okay, it will enhance a bit the framework, it make much more clear the playgrounds for business, but yet Russia is fully capable and actually willing to implement non-tariff barriers and restrictions, all kind of them, and it's actually doing it right now even. So don't flatter yourself. This belief that WTO will abolish or remove the protectionist nature of the trade policy from Russian side, no way. In cases they need it, they want it, they will still implement some kind of non-tariff restrictions, and you will still have problems with the business, and that's exactly what is going on right now. So basically, yes, WTO is a good thing, it will enhance the relationship, but it doesn't necessarily exclude all those cases which we have had during our history already several times, all of us.
Thank you. Victoria, maybe you have also something to tell about the WTO.
In terms of WTO, a lot has been underpinned, and what Ludas was saying, there was sound here, is about Gazprom. I should say, well, first of all, Gazprom is a difficult story for Russians as well. I don't mean Russian government, I mean Russians, right? So it's a difficult story, not just for you. But in terms of WTO, why I mentioned Gazprom, none of the anti-state company measures are taken under the conditions with which Russia is accessing the WTO, which is now part of the WTO. So from this side, no. Vice versa, Gazprom is threatening that it will now go to court, WTO court, to actually go against the third energy package measures. So they're trying to play it around. In terms of Trans-Siberian royalty payments and new cars industries that's been affected most for Russian economics, which are not of primary concern for bilateral relations, so nothing here. In case of Latvia, it's, for example, one of the top 5 exporters of cement. Even with their accession to WTO, I don't think any drastic increase in volumes of trade in this particular area. The only probably area that could experience some change is that, but in terms of downgrading, could be used car market, because if before the route actually moved more to Lithuania and to Latvia, I think, as well. And now with their customs, with the WTO, once Belarus lost its exclusivity within customs union, with the WTO accession, they might be further diversification. And unless there is a huge increase in volumes of the used cars market, then this could be even downgraded. But if you talk about the transparency, well, it's not just about WTO, and WTO has itself huge problems. Take the Doha round, which is dead, and so.
Yeah, but it tends to be a kind of common belief that WTO will dramatically change.
No, it even wouldn't change anything for Russia, because Dvorkovich, once we entered, said, "And you know what? You think prices would go down? No." So.
Ludus, you have something to add with this?
In Lithuania, we had some even the public research, researchers published on this issue, but returning to our study, it's quite clear that the biggest correlation in Lithuanian and Russian foreign trade is oil price, both in import and export. Very clearly, because higher oil price in Russia means higher demand. So we had this decrease in 2009 when the oil was $40, and later very, very strong correlation, even now. Speaking about WTO, Lithuania had, of course, we had some, for example, as already mentioned, second-hand car traders waited for this moment, but utilization fee, I think, stopped such expectations. Transit sector, of course, the tariffs to the Kaliningrad and Klaipėda. One tariff is internal, another one is foreign one. So theoretically, there are some possibilities to do something in this regard for Latvia, Estonia, I think, too. Competition with Russian ports. But the question, I agree with my colleagues, the instruments inside of WTO. European Union sometimes could be much faster, swifter in solving, I don't know, for example, anti-dumping or some other measures. In case of WTO, okay, you have a lot of tools, but Russia has very big diplomatic capacity and could learn how to use all those mechanisms for years and years and years. And it depends, the time will show if it will help. Yes.
Thank you. There are more questions now from the others.
Well, anyway, I want to ask about Belarus, because you all avoid it. Well, to Lithuanian colleague, it's obvious that economic relations with Russia are politically influenced. Is this the same in case of Belarus? Are those relations also politically influenced, or it's just economically? And to Russian colleague, do you influence on foreign economic policy of Belarus or not?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's take one more question.
Row by row. My name is Yuris Ozolins. I like to ask you about trade. Statistics of last year and year before is showing that Baltic states made marvelous in trade, in exchange with Russia. Only 7 countries in EU do have a positive balance, and among them is Latvia and Estonia. Definitely, Lithuania is a little tricky because some imports from Russia is hidden in a trade of electricity and oil products. But anyway, that was a big increase, 50% in 2011 and 2010, which means that economies gain a lot. You had been talking about investment climate, but definitely who gives benefits for economy is a balance of exchange, and that is positive, which means despite what very pessimistic notes had been said, business is going on. What politicians saying or not saying. What is your assumption? What is more important, business to business or government to government?
Thank you. So we can start answer with there were first questions regarding Belarus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to begin from me, as I understand. Yeah. Good question. There is relation and there is no relation, in my opinion. So we had 2 examples now, as you know, in the relations between Belarus and Lithuania. EU sanctions, of which Lithuania was not particularly heavy supporter, but it needed to support it anyway. So selective approach to some small list of companies, not the whole approach as some European Union countries wanted. And this bear story, maybe you have heard it, of course. So our business was very scared that it will hit very hardly in both cases. The same as in case in Latvia, our business was declaring that it will lose, I don't know, billions of euros even. But in fact, there is some negative, of course, effect, but it's not particularly high. Our business, okay, for our investors in Belarus, it's good to have a good relation with the central government, because if Lukashenko said, all lower level bureaucrats are doing. In Russia, as we know, it's different. You can decide something on quite high level, yes. on the local level, the bribe portion should be delivered anyway, and some additional agreements should be made, yes. So that's when the case when we speak, for example, about this story with Lithuanian road carriers, we are not sure from where the biggest incentive came. Yeah? So was it the custom and the interest groups, or central government, or both of them? So it's a black box in many cases. So, I would like to repeat, but anyway, Belarus is very important for Lithuania. It's a neighbor now. Service exports are growing as a tourism. Very big shopping tourists flows are increasing to Lithuania. I think soon Belarusians will be like a Finns to Tallinn. I hope so. Because we're closest capital and tax-free in the European Union. So still, but to finish this, Lithuania has a little bit different approach. Okay, we have problem with the government, yes, and because of the EU framework. But we should work on the people-to-people relations, small border movement, facilitated visa regime, lowering the price, I don't know, other cooperations. There's a lot of room for improvement too. That's all from me.
Thank you. There was a question to Victoria also.
Yes.
I couldn't recall it myself.
I was, let's say, I'm not following very much Russian-Belarusian relations in this regard. And yes, there were some things like acquiring 50 and then 50, like altogether 100% of this, how we call it, delivery network in Belarus. And of course, if you judge from this perspective, it's more dependent on Russia than, for example, possible deliberations with Ukraine, right, between Russia and Ukraine. But Russia is paying a very high price to keep Belarus or Lukashenko rather, not Belarus, Lukashenko kind of more or less compliant, and it doesn't help still. It continues transferring huge money, and I don't think it pays off in terms of Lukashenko can turn away any time, and that's what he's demonstrating. So I would say there is less room of influence which Russia has over Belarus than Russian government tends to think. Let's put it this way.
Okay, and then we come to the last question, which is actually about what came first, egg or chicken, or which is more important, politics, government to government, or business to business.
I will start actually as a practitioner, actually, because I have some interest in Russian-related businesses, and also I have consulted recently one relatively, in Russian scale it's mid-cap, in our scale it's a bigger kind of potential deal, which actually didn't occur because exactly the reason which was behind this question or the statement, what was first. The old Scandinavian money just doesn't trust Russian environment, and it's political reason why they don't trust it enough to put this money in. That's it. So basically we can say that for the certain larger scale, long perspective investments apart from the natural resources related ones, it's not an issue at all of egg and chicken, because it's very clear that the environment very much makes a difference. But at the same time, it doesn't mean necessarily that you cannot make a good business on the grassroots level. Especially like if you use also round-tripping techniques, like for example many Estonians, and it is recorded in our study also that many Estonian businessmen used even Latvian identities, not mentioning Finnish identities, to have a business in Russia after Bronze Soldier especially, and still it works. On the other hand, actually, again, being a advisory part in one particular business project, I can witness that, actually a couple of them in different regions of Russia, I can witness that the local authorities, for example, in Russia, in particular places where this business is, actually it's agriculture related, you won't believe it how anxious they are to get this business, actually.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't want and they only want bribes. They don't want even bribes very much. Try to imagine. So basically it's about something else. It's about, again, about, for example, the ruling, the centralization degree. Very many things are not in capability of deciding even on oblast level. Yeah. They have to go to Moscow and ask for permission. And actually several of them, and then problems start. So basically we still are about this, that for certain scale you have a problem on environmental level which is related to the political issues. On the other hand, you can do nice business, especially if it is trading business. Then it's not a problem. You can do it on the grassroots level. When you start to invest, and invest in relation with kind of usage some resources, land, water, whatever, other resources, then you might have a problem still. Therefore, I would say that still the political environment is so important, and therefore even Russian leadership itself has several times stressed, and now the new stress point was recently about the improving the environment, because even Russians themselves, Russian businessmen themselves, don't trust enough in long perspective the very environment, and therefore they diversify the risks in the way of fleeing capital streams which are growing again, whatever the measures they take against it. So this is something which we even can witness in Estonia, for example. We have common knowledge on the market, like in Latvia, for example, that a lot of Russian business people have bought real estate, but they are not Russian in a sense. They usually bought as legal entities through, again, the other, let's say, round-tripping logic through other jurisdictions, not directly very often, but it's going on. Recently I was approached by, I have some kind of real estate interest, I was approached by a person who actually want to buy out a lot of real estate, including this small portion of mine, into one big portion. And the reason is, he said openly, because he wants to diversify his risks back to Russia. So it goes.
Thank you.
I would agree to a certain extent that yes, it is on the one hand you need a permission from Moscow, but on the other hand it can be vice versa. And even if you got this permission from Moscow, or even from like if Putin approved of it, it doesn't mean that this will, even the big project would go along. The story, I wouldn't call names or countries behind it, but one country came and like one businessman came and said, $8 billion for investment and very good opportunities. And Putin said, yes, good idea. Just go and talk to the company that would be concerned, the big business company. And this person was speaking Russian, although he is like, he didn't look like he would be speaking Russian, right? So it's obviously from a very different part of the world, so not European. And those people were talking to each other, you know, why do we want business with those small brown people? What is this? So, and then they actually killed down the project that was approved by Putin. So this can work the vice versa as well. It does happen. But I would also very much actually separate between big business, because in this very case, big business is also, it's the same as the government. I mean, formally probably not, but those who are ruling are the same who are actually getting money. And so in this case, it's interlinked, so you cannot put anything before because it's the same thing. In the case of small and medium business, yes, if there is a better climate, for example, then there is a huge interest, and then there is no politics in small and medium business interactions, I think.
Thank you. And Liudas?
Okay, this
Your
question
opinion.
is mega broad, but I would like to repeat what I have said at the beginning of my presentation. No, there is a lot of Russian business and investments which create no problems but create very good additional added value. Particularly it's visible in Lithuania. As in case in Lithuania and other Baltic countries, we should think how to attract normal greenfield investors from Russia. Because there is a lot of money, but we must attract productive ones, not, I don't know, capitals who want, I don't know, act as in Sorosa's case, or to use some monopolistic status or something like that. And speaking from the Lithuanian side, who gets what? Okay, for some sectors, Russian market and Belarusian market, of course, is important. For example, 75% of cheese goes to Russia, produced in Lithuania. It can go to Lidl in Germany, yes, but the profit margin will be 5%, and in Russian you can make, I don't know, 25%. So for the someone in Lithuania, at least for the owners of the company who are Scandinavians, but something gets to the citizens of Lithuania too, and that as the taxes for our government. So
thank you, Liudas, and thank you all for being in this panel. Thank you, audience, for the discussion. Now I would like to give floor, and Andris will give a microphone. For me, it's only floor, to Andris Sprūds for closing remarks.
Thanks, Gatis. Well, Andris, just me or you as well?
You and Einars, a little bit.
So there is a...
It's up to you.
There is still a committee. Great. Well, okay. It's just I think I will be very short, sort of trying to summarize, because I think I already said what I think and what are my conclusions, and of course also the panel finished with their conclusions. Just a couple of things. One is, I think that, to paraphrase or to use a phrase by Madeleine Albright, even though there is a reference who said it, but about United States' role, of course, Russia and Belarus are indispensable partners in many regards for us. They are important, even though probably there is this asymmetry of levels, and of course we are less indispensable for Russia and for Belarus, but still some kind of interaction and interdependence is existing also there, despite also these asymmetries of indispensability. Second thing is that there is certainly, I think, interesting dynamic and diversity, and even more and more diversity, be it stakeholders on a domestic level, even though we sometimes try to over-centralize, let us say, how we interact, or be it also, let's say, channels of interaction, bilateral, regional, European, and whatever. Now we have a World Trade Organization, which also adds additional channel of interaction. And last but not least, because I usually say, look, it's, somebody's calling and saying, what should I say or not? As today in the morning in the TV I was asked, is this book, that's the reason why you are not welcome in Russia? I said, that's probably not, but there are some indications that I should be careful what I say next. But last but not least, as I said, and actually I think it's a positive part, I think let's not blame our partners for some things. I think at the very end, the answer is in our own domestic stability, strength, and confidence. That's why I say, look, not that the Russian investments or presence is somehow dangerous, but that's actually the institutional weaknesses, because if we let in Vladimir Antonov and Sorosa, it means not something bad about them, but actually about ourselves. So let's not blame somebody else, but let's be critical, let's be more transparent, let's be more efficient in our own countries, and then I think with that, we, at the very end, will improve our relations, because there will not be this gray zone and insecurity feelings and sort of risks and rooms for maneuver. So that's it with this. I think I am finishing here, and I am thanking once more to Andis, of course, and the authors and the international body of authors, as this panel was also reflecting it. And thank you, of course, to the readers and listeners and commentators in this panel. So enjoy. Thanks.
There is a special day for Andris, and chairman of our think tank board, Ainars Lerchis, will say something to you.
So, first of all, I would like to thank you all, the joint Latvian and international team of authors and all participants of our conference, our seminar, all of authors, and as well as to administrative staff of our institutions and all institutions who were invited to this project and who contributed to this project. But and also my thanks personally to project coordinator, project director Andis Kudars. But our special congratulations today go to our editor, Andris Sprūds, because today in our calendar in Latvia his name is written in Latvian. The call it Vārda diena, in Russian imeniny. Let us all congratulate him warmly today. Thank you.
Thank you for the music, and let's have lunch, and we'll start with some glass of champagne, and this will be downstairs. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for your efforts. We appreciate that.